It's time to say good morning to my very special guest. It's a big, warm good morning to Heledd Fychan. Good morning to you, Heledd.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
Very well, thank you. Yes,
Good.
the sunshine always helps.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Do you remember that particular song with the graveyard?
I know the song, yes.
Yeah.
But I don't, and I do remember the graveyard.
Yeah, saving the best to last. Ron the Cyntaf, councillor for Pontypridd ward. Trying times, Heledd. Before we talk about the food bank, how are you as a councillor? Your family, are you all well? That's the first thing.
Yes, as a family, we're all very well, thank you. Obviously, very strange not being able to see some of my relatives. My mother lives across the road from me, and not being able to see her properly and not give her a hug is difficult, but I know many people are in the same situation. Just grateful that we're all healthy. And as a councillor, I'm just trying to support members within my community who are self-isolating or having to shield. But we've got fantastic community spirit here and lots of neighbours helping one another.
Fantastic. So when we say town ward, is that the town centre which got flooded as well?
Indeed, yes. So it covers the town centre, Graigwen and Berrow Road, which obviously was flooded as well.
So you've had your work cut out this last couple of months then, Heledd?
Well, definitely, yes. It's definitely been the most trying time for our town. Obviously, the floods were just devastating in February. And for us to be then hit by all the restrictions and coronavirus so soon afterwards, it's difficult to imagine everything that people have been going through, really. And obviously, it's delayed now the recovery and the work on homes and businesses, so they can start reopening and for people to move back to their properties.
Let's be honest, if somebody said to you on New Year's Eve what was going to happen in February with the floods and then with coronavirus in March, you would have looked at them daft, wouldn't you?
Oh, undoubtedly. I think for one of those things to happen,
yes,
you would think would be extraordinary. And to think we're only in May now and that both those things have happened, I don't think anybody could have forecast this.
Surreal doesn't really cut it, does it, in many ways? Surreal. I mean, you're in touch with the businesses, I take it, in Taff Street in particular. Of course, you mentioned Berrow Road, they suffered badly as well. How are they doing, generally? How are they actually doing, Heledd?
Well, I think what's really difficult is the fact that a lot of the businesses were just starting to reopen. We saw some businesses having relocated to the market and reopening and then having to close because of the restrictions coming in with the coronavirus. Obviously, there are other businesses who have stayed open to supply food, fresh vegetables, meats and so on. And there's been quite a demand there. Other businesses have started deliveries, which have been really well received. So in a sense, I think it's a mixture between those who've been able to still carry on and maybe have been able to get new customers who are appreciating what we have to offer locally. But obviously for those who have had to close or who were still trying to kind of fix things after the floods and the building work has had to stop, I think there's a matter of frustration and concern about what the future looks like for many of the businesses. Yeah,
because I had a chat with Hope Rescue a couple of weeks back, and the problems this caused because I believe they are still closed, aren't they, Hope Rescue?
Yes. And if you walk along Taff Street, the fact that, you can still see the damage from the floods in many of the businesses because work hasn't been able to progress because of this. So really, we knew it was going to be months before town was in any way back to normal after the floods. The fact that that's now been postponed because of the coronavirus just adds really to the uncertainty for those businesses.
Yeah, it's awful, isn't it? Absolutely awful.
Yeah.
So let's talk about. Oh, by the way, before we came on air, it's your little boy's birthday today, isn't it?
Yes, it is. He's 7 today, so a very different kind of celebration to what we thought we'd have. But he's happy because he's got Lego to build today, and we're not going to do any schoolwork.
Good girl. See, that's it. You see, responsible parent and making sure the education is done as well. That's brilliant. A happy birthday. What's his Christian name? Just his Christian name. What's his name?
Tom.
Right.
Yes.
Happy birthday. Enjoy your day. Have a good day.
Thank
you can always Zoom friends, though, can't you? Have you been doing? Because with the meetings with the council, have you done many Zoom meetings yet?
Well, actually, we haven't had any council meetings because they've still been trying to work out the technology, but they hope to start soon, which is something we're really keen to do so that we can discuss some of the decisions being taken and obviously start to plan for the future as we come out of restrictions whenever that happens. Also, obviously, my concern is about the support for those who are still suffering following the floods, and I think the sooner the better, really, we're able to meet again as a council, start discussing some of the issues that are of concern to residents.
Yeah, because we've seen the TV monitors in the House of Commons. Do you think that once this is up and running, do you think this is a tool, if you like, that can continue after this pandemic is over? Do you think it's something, the technology is moving on and it does give people like your good self opportunities to do something from home more?
Well, I would hope so, because one of the things I find frustrating in terms of politics is the fact that there's so many barriers for many people to participate. Some of it is because of travelling time. Where the council offices are based in Cllr Heledd, it's really difficult to get to from a number of areas. Even from Pontypridd, I think you need 2 buses and to walk quite a distance.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a car, in terms of being able to be a councillor, it's one thing being able to be a councillor within your ward, but to actually get to meetings and so on, if you don't have a car or someone who's kind enough to drive you, that can be a barrier. And I think the same is true at the Assembly or at Westminster. If you live a distance from Cardiff or a distance from London, I think the fact that if you could participate then means you could be more on the ground for those that you represent. But also that you're not away from family as much, which I think is a barrier for many people going into politics, because who ideally would want to be away from family for 3 or 4 nights a week?
Yes, and of course it does make it a little bit easier as well, because sometimes, say for example, if somebody's ill and a family member's not too well for the day, you could join in the meeting via Zoom, couldn't you? So it opens up different doors. Yeah, it does open up.
And I think, and seeing people able to ask Boris Johnson questions directly, well, I think that's great. The fact that politicians are accountable to people and people are able to ask questions directly, I think that should be encouraged and developed further. Excellent.
Right, the Ponty Food Bank. How long has this been going, Heledd?
Well, it's been for a number of years, and obviously it's quite sad that we have to have a food bank in a sense. Obviously, parts of the reason they were set up was during a lot of austerity and the fact that people were just struggling to make ends meet and just didn't have the money available to buy basic essentials such as food. So it's been up and running, and obviously at this time it's been playing a completely vital role for our community for a number of years, but even more so now, because if you think there are a number of people who are not able to work at the moment or their employment has stopped, universal credit can take a number of weeks to come through, and a number of problems with that system. So Pontypridd Food Bank is actually playing such a vital role then just in supporting people.
So, of course, you need people to donate, don't you? So how can they do that, first of all?
Well, if you're out and about, you're able to donate at both Tesco in Upper Boat and Sainsbury's in Pontypridd. But there's a lot of local groups now that are collecting on a more local level weekly. So I would urge people to look at various Facebook pages and keep an eye out for flyers that have been posted through doors, where you could just leave food outside of your door and people are coming to collect, because a number of people have tinned food and so on that they have and may not necessarily need, but would be happy to provide to others. I've also had people do click and collect at Sainsbury's, and I've been able to collect and take directly to the food bank. There are a number of ways. For myself, in Pontypridd Town Ward, we've set up 3 donation points and we're collecting every fortnight of the weekend. So residents who live near Hillside View, which is where I live, are able to donate outside my house. And I had a whole car full 2 weeks ago, and I've already got half a room full ready to go to the food bank next week.
Well done.
So people are being incredibly generous and wanting to help those who are, well, unfortunately not able to afford food at the moment through no fault of their own.
And these things happen. I can remember the miners' strike back in 84, 85. Food banks played a huge part to help people get through it then. And I suppose the message from you, Heledd, is, look, don't be proud. There's nothing wrong. For whatever reason, if you need food, go to the food bank.
Oh, definitely. And I think the one thing I would say is, people are proud, obviously. But as I said, it's through no fault of your own, this present situation. Some families have been hit by the floods, then now by coronavirus. And, people want to help and support, and there is help available. And I think the one thing I feel extremely proud, you can tell from my accent, I'm sure, but I'm not from Pontypridd originally, but I've lived here now for a number of years, and I feel incredibly proud to live in this community. And we've seen the best of this community since February, with people coming out to support one another and just being there to offer support. There are people now phoning those who are living by themselves just so that someone can have a chat. So there's a whole range of support there, and obviously no one should be finding themselves in a position where they have no food at the moment. And I think we're incredibly lucky that we have the food bank there to provide what's a vital service.
Well said. You're Welsh. That's all that matters, really, isn't it? It doesn't matter what part of Wales. You're Welsh. That's brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Where is the food bank, Heledd?
So at the moment, the one that's open is in St Luke's, so in Rhydfelen. So you're able to donate in the mornings. You're able to take donations there as well. And there are a number of ways people can be referred to the food bank, and you can find out those details from your local councillors if you're unsure as well.
Okay, and
so
now
I think it's always worth requesting help, because there is a whole range of help out there, and I'd hate to think of anybody who may be listening who's struggling and don't know where to turn at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, can people go to the RCT website for details about the food bank, or is there a separate website?
There's a separate website, and there's also an app that people can donate, and there's also a Facebook page which is just Pontypridd Food Bank, and there's lots of details there about how you can request support, and yes, the one thing, if people don't have access to social media and so on, if you get in touch with your local councillor, they will be able to help you, and RCT could direct you as well to that support.
Oh, Heledd, you've been an absolute star. Well, thank you very much on behalf of the listeners for all the hard work that you're doing. It's a great idea, and of course, don't be proud is the message. If you need food, then obviously, come along and collect what you want. And if you want to donate, of course, people know exactly what to do. Heledd Fychan, RCT Councillor for Pontypridd Town Ward. Stay safe, and don't forget, don't be shy. Come back and have a chat with us in a couple of weeks' time to update, or if you want to have a chat about something different, you're always very welcome, Heledd.
Oh, would love to. I love GTFM.
So, there we are.
Thank you for keeping our spirits up during this time as well.
Well, it's what we do. I mean, we're a community station, as you know. We're all volunteers. We love being volunteers. And if we can help put a smile on people's faces, my little motto is entertain, educate. But the most important thing as well, I suppose, is entertain the best way we can.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes. Well, thank you so much.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you very much. And I hope your son has a very enjoyable birthday. Okay. Thanks, Heledd.